Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Epik Mellon podcast. In fact, the first one of 2025, which I'm very excited for. I actually tried to because last year I actually had episodes like through break and like right it's the start of the new year, but this year I was like, no, no, I'm taking a break. So
Take a
this
little
is
time
this is
off.
the first one since December, since like the first week of December. So welcome back, everybody. I have with me Ken Pyle, who I've had on the show before when we were at an actual Broadband Forum meeting, but I'm very excited to have him here because he's at CES, which I always miss out on. As you can see Vegas in the background.
Yep.
um, As always, this podcast is brought to you by QA Cafe, and as such, Ken's views and my views don't reflect those of QA Cafe or its ownership. And it's brought to you by our three great products: CD Router, which is the industry standard test platform for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi devices, and other customer premises equipment, with thousands of test cases pre-written just for you, covering hundreds of protocols, performance, stability, and more uh, that you can do without any work to make better products overall for your end users. CloudShark, which allows collaboration on packet captures in new ways. Actually, we just came out with CloudShark 4 that has a whole bunch of cool new stuff in it. Um, and it is powered by Packet Viewer, which is the way to add packet capture analysis to your cloud managed networking or cybersecurity platform. All right. How's it going over there?
It's going well. Sorry for the little distractions and the clunking of the chairs, but I should do my disclaimers. These views are solely my own, and maybe I've stolen from other people, but they're certainly not the Broadband Forum's.
Well, it's not like when we had Craig on where I was like, oh, wait, your views are the
Yeah,
Broadband Forum's
no,
views.
these views are my own crazy thoughts and ideas, and have nothing to do with the Broadband Forum. Although hopefully it'll be informative for Broadband Forum members and beyond. I am director of marketing for that forum, which we're obviously both members and participants. But in today's uh, interview, it's about Viodi, which is the newsletter I've had for 22 years, and I've been going to CES for a number of years. So it really will be.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you've been
And
going for quite a while,
yeah,
right?
and this is on my own dime. I actually, paid to come out here and stuff like that. There's no sponsorship, so yeah, it's a lot of fun having that freedom just to kind of look at things that I find of interest, or that.
Yeah, yeah. And you sent me a bunch of those. So, I like, I try to explain the magnitude of CES to people, but it is, I don't know. I don't know if this is actually accurate, but definitely in our industry, at least, it is the biggest trade show in the world.
I think so. I mean, it's. I'll give you a quick example. Yesterday, first day I walked. I'm about 2 miles from the closest conference center of the main show, and so I walked the 2 miles, and it was about 35 minute walk. Yesterday, I took an Uber. It ended up being, I think, about 45 minutes with all the crowds and everything, and getting out.
Oh, so that was just like the traffic,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to get
bad
there?
traffic
Oh my
getting
God.
in, and of course they let me out on the other side, and it took 10 minutes just to have a sidewalk or have the stoplights not work because they're directing traffic and so forth. So
They're like,
that's. I would have gone back to the show floor and we would have been doing this live from there, but just the logistics of getting there, I didn't think it would happen, and not to mention
yeah.
the internet. Could possibly get a reliable signal, but.
Was it what? So they're just usually I mean, trade shows in general, the internet sucks, but I imagine the congestion is pretty bad over there.
It actually isn't as bad as I thought. And I do have a colleague who actually was taking I don't know if he was on video or not, but it was definitely a Zoom type call there. But it's good
That's
enough that,
brave.
I can get emails and, calendar invites and stuff like that of people saying, hey, come to our booth.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, CES is the Consumer Electronics Show, and it's been going on for a very
Uh,
long time.
yeah, since 1967, I think, the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they took the C.
Back when it was the World's Fair. No.
Yeah, exactly. They took the C out of or consumer out of CES, in the sense that now they don't even say Consumer Electronics Show. This maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, they just called CES because I mean,
Oh, like
just
KFC.
yeah, exactly. Because like here's this is a power plant that could be in a home or a business. There's just medical
You were
devices.
telling me about that. There's
Yeah.
legit portable nuclear devices.
Oh yeah, that was a different one. That was from France, and they weren't the Coneheads. No, they came from France, and they have a small modular reactor that they were pitching the other night. This one's a different
Wow.
one that uses combination of magnetics and hydro flow to generate power. I hope it works. I don't know if it will or not. This one
Wow.
is taking 3D television, technology they'd originally developed for television, creating eyeglasses that redirect light for people who have macular degeneration. Because apparently there's still good spots in the retina. You just have to get the light to it. So these
Oh, so
little
it like
optics.
figures out where it's supposed to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
wild.
Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
hopefully, again, a lot of these things you see and they don't necessarily come to fruition, but I hope they do because they're good things, right?
So it's like this is good because it's kind of what I wanted to talk about and know because obviously like the our industry, because we always talk about how the future of broadband now is the collision of consumer electronics and networking, right? And so like for a long time that was just not a thing, right? It's like, yeah, there's definitely like the retail router guys are out there who are
Mhm.
over at CES, but like more and more on our side. But on the flip side of that, it's like just literally anything. Like what is the percentage of like the big sort of established brands that are there versus all these startups with these crazy new ideas? Like is it a good mix or is it like
Yeah, no, it's probably, I bet it's like 90% of companies you've never heard of, or I've never heard of at least. And maybe I have heard of them because they've come back to see us several times now, but they're, they may be well known in their vertical, but a lot of them are new startups, give you a quick, and they seem to start in these verticals that become new verticals. Like there were two trailers, if you will. There are trailers, the kind you pull behind your car to go camping or whatever. But they have electric drivetrains, and the idea is if you have a pickup truck, an electric pickup in particular, you don't want to lose that range getting to the campground that's 200 miles away, but suddenly your 300-mile truck only has a 100-mile range. Well, this augments that by basically driving itself. And they've managed, it's all a technology play. They've managed to somehow couple the two drive systems such that it just kind of floats on the ball. So it doesn't really
it's
put a lot of stress.
weird?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
my wife could use that on
Oh, well,
the
it gets
mobile
better
cocktail
because they
bar.
have 360-degree vision. So it
Yeah.
can, at least one of them was showing the capabilities to remotely lock the thing. So, it'll hitch it, unhitch it. It will kind of maneuver itself into the tight campground facility, and then totally put down all the piers and stuff
It-
that hold it up, and even opens up the stairs. They come down. Everything's and it's all electric, of course, so you don't have to worry about a generator, about propane. And they're
wow.
talking like 7 days out in the countryside. And of course, and here's how you justify getting one. So you can use it as your backup power for your house and export power, right?
So
So
while it's sitting around, it's also just a generator, like
yeah,
battery.
exactly. An asset that's probably 99.99% just sitting there now suddenly has another reason to exist. And plus it has kilowatts of solar panel on top. So it'll
Of course
charge.
it does.
Yeah, and it's not the traditional kind of rivet and aluminum type of, these are unibodies. They're just, as they say, the first principles thinking, right? They really started from scratch on both these. Lightspeed RV is one of them, and Pebbles the other. I
So
interviewed both founders of
that's
those.
like that seems like it really is kind of a thing whose time has come. Like, is there a lot of power stuff there? Like a lot of like like a lot of utility, utility stuff there as these
Yeah, I mean,
consumer devices.
there was some demo. Well, first, before I leave that, you can use it to export power. I had to throw this in. It has an Ethernet plug that you plug in the Ethernet, or Starlink optional type of thing.
There you go. There you
But
go. It's not just portable power, it's a
the
portable
whole
broadband device. I
white
love it.
spot. But yeah, I did see, and I might have even taken a picture of it, but like a backup utility thing uh, for, kind of emergency power that was substantial. um,
Huh,
there. And of course, the various power supplies that the Anchors of the world and some others that, for hefty power backup. Some that
right, right.
there's a company, a relatively new one that has these thin ones that you can like put on top of your refrigerator just to back up, essential things.
That's so cool. And that's why I say it seems like it's an idea whose time has come because like there's been a lot of like government subsidies and all this stuff of all that for a while, but I've always and you know this, it's the same in any industry, but like, we've seen it in broadband stuff, which, I'll talk about that in a second. But like when there's a sort of perfect alignment of the available technology at the time and the market desire, like that's when stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
And for power stuff, not just, power management, but also, you know, a better way of having electricity. It's always been, and for electric cars too, right? It's always been waiting on the battery technology and the solar technology and all these things to sort of converge, and it really has. Like solar is way cheaper and easier to get now than it ever was before, and it actually
Right.
makes sense. And
Right.
that just sort of happened, right? Like
Right.
the market demand is now there. It's like, and yes, the subsidies are out there, and certainly people were sort of like granted to develop this stuff, but not necessarily. Kind of just eventually now the time has come.
Yeah, and there wasn't, oddly, in years past there was probably more kind of full scale prototypes of some of the electric aviation type stuff, and this relates to what you're talking about. Bell was there a couple of years ago showing their big eVTOL. So basically, these things take off and land vertically, but they fly like an airplane, and they don't necessarily have a lot of range. Typically, they're like 100 miles, but the idea is that maybe from Portsmouth to Boston. So you load in Portsmouth, fly to Boston, and suddenly it's lower cost because electricity is cheaper than gas. And this whole industry is exploding with names like Archer and Joby and stuff, and it's all without subsidies. I mean, it's
Yeah,
happening because it's just a natural fit, and it's pretty exciting because it's opening up new
right.
opportunities. I don't know
Right.
if you
And I
saw.
feel like,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's it's been on the internet, this I think it was BYD that was showing this it's like a Tesla style cyber truck, a little bigger, it looks almost military, but it has a drone in the back, and so it stops in the middle of the desert or wherever it is. Actually it's a snow covered like plane, and then out comes this drone and someone gets in the drone and flies away. But it's all for personal, it's for fun, right? It's not a military vehicle, it just looks like one. But that was actually on display there.
Roids.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really
And
cool.
I've got some
Yeah,
other
no, but like
references.
technologies whose time has come. Like, so obviously there's a lot of smart home stuff there. And we've just been recently experiencing how, and it's funny because I'm actually going to have, very excited. I'm going to have Chris from the Connectivity Standards
Oh
Alliance
yeah,
on,
Matter.
I think next time.
Oh, perfect.
And one of the things that he and I kind of talked about offline was it's the when is the market right? When is the
Mhm.
market right for this stuff? And people don't want to um people want this unified experience for smart home stuff so that they don't have to do it, right? And that it meets their expectations. And I feel like the stuff that we work on is getting to the point where it is actually going to enable those things. And I imagine that is like you're probably starting to see that at CES, right?
Yeah, I mean it's that thing of even if you can make the installation easy, but then it has to continue working, right? There's nothing worse when your 35 overhead lights start poltergeisting and, it's flashing and stuff. And then you get yelled at,
Yes.
why didn't you put in switches for each of those banks of lights? Why are you relying on
Right.
electronics when it doesn't work, right? So yeah,
Right.
the reliability, but you're right. I mean, there was a lot of matter everywhere in
Really.
smart, light bulbs to whatever. There was yeah, I mean, I have some examples probably, but it almost was so ubiquitous that some of that smart home stuff is almost becoming kind of standard. So a lot of the stuff I was looking at was kind of, well, what's new? Like that Wi-Fi Halo stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what I didn't send on that, and I'll send it so you can add it to the video, but I ended up going. So I guess one of the big companies behind it, chip companies, is Morse Micro. And so I did an interview with their CEO the other day, and then they had a suite. So I went back to the suite to actually see the number of products that are available that are using the standard. And these are, the light bulbs, the smart cameras, and so forth. And the problem they're solving is that problem of one example, I guess, would be you've got this ranch and you're, maybe a mile away. You need to monitor some water for the cows or whatever, and know when to go back out to fill it up or what have you. Or maybe you have some cameras you want to have out there. And this Y-Halo technology is basically using the unlicensed spectrum, depending on where you are, somewhere between 850 and 940 megahertz, I think. But not that full spectrum, but portions of it. But the key is it's unlicensed, so it's real easy to use. And with that kind of lower frequency relative to traditional Wi-Fi frequencies, you get better propagation. It can go through
Right, right,
objects
right,
and
right.
all
Yeah,
that stuff,
yeah.
right? And so they were showing. And this was the ideal conditions: Joshua Tree, line of sight, desert. They were showing video transmission over 9.9 miles. And again, that was just kind of the extreme, right? But
Wow.
yeah, I was really surprised because I thought the bandwidth would be a lot less. But they're
No, right, right. I thought
yeah,
that was the point, right? It's like
yeah.
you're using it for things where you don't necessarily have to have a lot of it's transmitting stuff that doesn't require a lot of data. But that's crazy. That's
Yeah, and
really
then the
awesome.
power requirements are very low too. I have the spec somewhere, but I mean, when it's just not transmitting, it's in the hundreds of microamps, and then it's still measured in the hundreds of milliamps when it's transmitting. So very low transmit power, so you can have battery powered, solar powered type things out in the countryside. So that takes care of a lot of installation issues
Cool.
and stuff.
That's very cool. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah. That was
So
from. Oh, go ahead.
what just from I want to ask your Viodi perspective, right? Because you've been doing that for a while, and CES in particular probably had a much more. There was at least a market for broadcast television people to be there,
Yeah.
right, in the past. And I imagine that's a lot less.
Well, it probably, yeah, as a percentage, it's just they're still there, but oddly, I didn't go to the central hall this time where most of those big vendors are, the big TV manufacturers, and I'm sure they still had their big booths, and there were screens, tons of screens, and it is kind of funny because in 2007 I wrote my synopsis of the CES was screens everywhere because screens were just starting to, maybe the LEDs were coming out. I guess they were in 2007, but they were getting bigger and everywhere. And I remember being in the Panasonic booth, and I don't know if this was their intent, but they had these windows, but they weren't windows, they were screens. And it's like, oh my
Mhm,
gosh,
mhm.
someday they're going to do this, right? So one of the things that at this show, it's called Liquid. I'll find it, Liquid Air or something like that. But they actually are creating fake windows. So if you're in a building that needs more windows or a cubicle or something, suddenly you'll have this fake window and it's framed and everything. And so
I
there,
actually know some work from home people that would find that great.
yeah, well, that's what this guy said. He actually uses it. He's a psychologist, an investor in the company. Now he works there. And he says he lives in San Francisco in one of these places that, if he looks out the window, he's looking at a brick wall, right? So he's
Yeah.
using it. And they're citing studies from Stanford that being in nature and so forth, even just having a window makes a difference. Um,
Huh,
so,
huh.
but
I
to
wonder
your
if the
point,
virtual window works the same way.
yeah, I don't know. You can change your scenery though. That's one of their gimmicks. I don't know whether it'll succeed or not, or what the real differentiator is. But yeah, there's in fact the other thing that was really shocking because I've seen this through the years, and we already touched on it with the macular degeneration stuff. But I don't know, maybe it was like 2011, 2012. 3D TV was big, and
Right.
that was going to be the next big thing. And you would go there, and there would be occasional Here's some 3D TVs. You don't need the glasses or anything. Um, and then that kind of went away. Oddly, at one of the events, I did see a couple 3D TVs again. I don't know, what the
Really?
motivation was.
I
Yeah.
thought that never really caught on.
Yeah, and I'm not certain why they were there. Kind of these things come and go, and I kind of sometimes lose interest, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's a great question though, because I feel like, and again, it's all about it's actually just in my weird ADD brain that psychologist talking about being actually in nature and us
Mm,
talking about this smart home stuff and how users actually want to interact with things and how at the end of the day we are actually animal humans, right?
mhm.
Uh, the 3D thing didn't catch on, I think, because either A, the content wasn't worth it, or B, people don't want to wear glasses, right?
Yeah.
And I really is there a lot of VR stuff there, right?
Oh yeah, clearly. I mean, and that's one of the things too. There's some sunglasses here, and they were actually were. I saw a tweet, touting how great these are and stuff. And you read the words and think it's great, but when I tried them on, it was like I couldn't really make them work, right? So, and
Yeah,
that's
right.
part of the frustration too. I think it happens. This stuff gets hyped up so much, and it looks like it's going to cure cancer, and it doesn't, right? Of course. But another example of that was one of these touch interface things or touchless interface, right? Where this one is amazing, really, because they were using just regular cameras. So you didn't need like the Microsoft Xbox type stuff. So, very low cost, but it was like this touch interface. But it just was too difficult, right, for me.
Yeah,
And maybe I could be
yeah.
trained to do it, but I don't want to spend more than,
Well,
five
no, right?
seconds.
That's the point. You don't
Yeah.
have to, and it's there's been tons of those, right? You can actually buy some now where it's like, it just kind of has it just projects onto your
Mm,
table, but
right.
it's invisible and you have to just learn a bunch of gestures.
Yeah.
But no, I don't want to learn a bunch of gestures.
Right. Right. Exactly. It was like me with the iPhone a few minutes ago, right? And then maybe I'm just getting old or something, but yeah,
Well,
it's.
that's what's so interesting about the screen thing, right? Is what was it? I think it was Liz Parks who was saying that like the TV is still the center of the consumer electronics
Mm,
home, right?
hmm.
And it is surprising to me that more manufacturers haven't like really, really, really tried to like own that because what do we really want out of our smart home experience, right? We want some sort of interface to a screen that's just like the television,
Hmm.
right? Here I am saying things that I probably should be making a business out of, but anyway,
Yeah.
uh, like somebody's at the door. I want to bring the camera up on the TV, right? Something's done over there. I don't want to bring out my phone and open the app and do all this stuff. No, I'm already doing this. Can I see the notification there? And I'll be like, oh yeah, hey thanks, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's surprising to me that like you were saying, it's like it was the the TVs were a very big thing many years ago.
Hmm.
Now they're not, and I feel like there's not a lot of innovation there because really they're just either trying to internalize the same app software that everybody else is doing that you could just do on a Roku or whatever,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And that's it, right? And that's it. Like, and so it's interesting to me that that's not a thing.
It is such a challenge because I mean they are big pieces of equipment and it's physically to change it out. So I mean I think the cell cycle on them or the replacement cycle is still kind of long too. So from a technology perspective, but that's
Not as long as my parents like black and white
oh that's
CRT
true.
that we
You're
had.
right.
Like
Yeah, it's not the same as it was 25 years ago. Yeah, but it does remind me
that was
though.
their 40-year-old TV they had.
Yeah, that was yeah. I understand that. Ecobee was showing on there, and those were Matter enabled, as I recall. I probably should fact check myself on that, but their latest thermostat, their premium one, actually has a video screen on it, so you can do. Someone rings their doorbell and it shows up on their thermostat. Is oh, that's who's at the door, and you can talk to them and so forth.
On the
Which is
but I'm
cool.
not going to walk over to the
Yeah,
thermostat. Like,
right.
did you ever see the? It was years ago. Uh, Corning put out this video, right? And it was called A World of Glass.
Oh, I might have seen that.
But the point of it was not about the glass. It
Mhm.
was about every surface being able to be screenable
Yeah,
and be able to be interactive, right?
right, right.
So they woke up and their mirror had like the weather and the news and all these things on them and a couple of notifications if they wanted, right? And then they went into the kitchen and like there was the refrigerator you could just like
Hmm.
make. do stuff right on it and everything like that. And it was like, that's what I want, man. That's what
Well,
I
in
want,
fact, I do
right?
have screens everywhere, right? And
Right? And I don't even want them anywhere. I just want to interact with things in the most centralized manner that
right,
I expect to do so, right?
right.
In as few steps as possible.
Yeah, that was mostly shown in the automotive area, but a lot of the smart glass, if you will, projecting on the glass in various ways.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see these autonomous shuttle buses. I'm sure they're going to be just big display ads, right, on the
Oh man, that would
and
be
on the inside.
right. Or I would love to have better heads up display on my windshield,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there were some companies showing that. I didn't really look at them this year, but I have in the past.
Like I would, you know what? Here it is, everybody. And I'm copywriting this now. You know what the killer app will be? The killer app will you would be able to pretend that you're locking onto people and firing missiles at them while you're driving in the car.
A little laser. Well, yeah, actually, this might be a good segue for that, and that was the I'd mentioned.
Firing missiles at people? Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually that would be good, but the my conversion from just my own thinking person to an autonomous robot. And the serious part of this is that this company, and there was a bunch of companies doing things like this to make it more accessible, to improve accessibility for people with low vision. So basically, smart canes. And this guy, they've developed smart goggles that basically sense the environment around you like an autonomous vehicle would, and then it looks at those inputs, creates a plan, and then directs the user where to walk, just like a CNI dog would do.
Oh,
And of course,
cool.
because it has cameras, it could also do things like read. So you can read that label
Oh,
because it's got AI and stuff. I think they're using
and it
it.
will read it to you.
Yeah, they're using an NVIDIA GPU. And so I've got a video of myself walking based on the vibrations that I'm feeling in my forehead. And it's like a game. I have to center the vibrations. And when I've centered them, that's the direction I have to go. And so
Cool.
it's
Wow, it's
real
like one
bizarre.
step away from having like Geordie LaForge's advisor.
Yeah, and I look actually kind of like a robot because it's kind of directing me, and I'm hearing a voice. I didn't understand what it was saying at first, but
Right.
it,
It's like
it
if you weren't blind, they wouldn't tell you that they put the back and forth Cylon red dot on the other side.
yeah, well, the voice was saying narrow, narrow, and apparently that was meant that it's a really narrow place. I thought she was saying something else,
Was it
but
pretty good at reacting to like crowds?
oh yeah, that's yeah. When you look at the video, you'll see there's people all around me. I'm in the middle of the show floor, and then I had no idea. That's why I kind of published that on YouTube. It was really just going to be B-roll for the interview I did with the CEO, but they actually had me go out, come all the way back, and I had no idea where I was until I looked at the B-roll the other night when I downloaded it to the computer and realized it was kind of funny because I had no idea where I was in that space. And so it's looking at it from another angle, I guess.
Right, right, right. That's crazy.
But it's
Man.
also kind of that integration of man and machine or whatever, human and machine.
Yeah. Well, I've always said we've been cyborgs for quite a while,
Hmm.
right? It's like with the advent of the internet and with the advent of smartphones, we've been cyborgs for quite a while, right?
Yeah,
The very first thing that was offloaded for us was just information in databases, right?
yeah, yeah. I know you're right, right. But it just is. There's a little deeper integration. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what about all the broadband stuff? Like how how many people how is that collision looking over there? Like is there a lot more of that
The, you
there
know,
now
the
than there used to be?
Yeah, I mean, I, I noticed there were quite a few of our members there, and I should have been more proactive in reaching out to them. But I noticed they had meetings. There was, and I know a lot of those meetings happen. Um, basically have four big convention halls where most of the booths are. But then you have just a ton of suites in the hotels, and
Oh,
multiple
really?
hotels. Oh yeah, And so those are, you could just spend weeks in those, right?
It's Vegas. Is that like having slot machines in the hotels when you leave
Yeah,
the
it's very
casino?
similar. And so I think that's where a lot of the broadband forum members, would have things, and other companies. I did notice, Vodafone had a booth. I think it was
Interesting.
dealing with IoT. There were some a company in Korea. I interviewed them because it was pretty interesting. They're doing free space optics from satellite, and claiming to get lots of bandwidth. I think they're launching in a year or two. But that's kind of a
Cool.
topic that's been a hot topic lately.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, the thing that stood out though again was that Wi-Fi Halo solution, just because it was kind of different, right?
Right,
Um,
right, right, right. So it's not just like a lot of the same people showing a lot of the same stuff and like, oh, here's our new router,
yeah,
like
there is,
yeah.
and unfortunately, um, I mean, yeah, there were some well-known vendors I saw in some of the big booths. Some of the challenges are you get these huge booths, and then I just kind of ignore the huge booths because it's just they're almost too imposing, and you end up talking to the people who are the press before, or the media handlers before you get to
Yeah,
the
right,
people. Um,
right.
One of the things that is kind of not broadband, but I think it has a lot of parallels to broadband. I kind of mentioned this in the email, but I think this was like the biggest aha moment for me. And that was this concept. And I don't even know if they've really fully baked this concept yet. It's very new, but the idea of on-demand garbage collection for communities.
You were telling me about that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of putting your can or your garbage bag, your kitchen garbage bag in your garbage can, you somehow summon it, and out comes the little Wally thing. It's a little robot, autonomous robot. It flips open its top. You pop the garbage in, and it weighs it. So maybe you're, instead of getting charged on a weekly basis, you're getting charged per pound of garbage or whatever.
That's great.
Totally changes the model. And then instead of having a big garbage cart come down your street, little Wally, or Harry actually is the name. Harry goes back to kind of a central location. Who knows how far away? Maybe a half mile, a quarter mile. Who knows? But that's where you have the central garbage. And when that fills up, the garbage truck would go and pick up there. So you're only one stop, right? And of course, it's an all-electric garbage truck. This is an all-electric. Well, and it gets back to your earlier point that because of electricity, now you can, and batteries, you can open up new applications you could never have done before in a combustion engine
Right.
with
Yeah.
fuel tanks and stuff. And so this really could be a game changer. Oh my gosh, all the roads, a garbage truck, I think I know it's almost a fourth every pound on a highway. It goes up by a power of four, right? So having those heavy garbage can
Oh
trucks,
yeah.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
destroys the road. So if you can take them off the residential streets, and that's huge. You've got the efficiencies of not bringing the garbage truck in, and really, doing these routes where a lot of times maybe I only have this much garbage in my garbage, or conversely, my neighbor's garbage is overflowing and it gets in the street and stuff. But if it could be taken away when it needs to be taken away, it's better for
That
everyone.
would be so great, especially because like, if you miss if you miss a collection, right? Or if
Right,
something happens
exactly.
because of snowstorm or something,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like, well, I guess I'm piling up 2 weeks of trash now.
Well, they asked him about that, especially if it was on a community basis. Could you put a little snowplow attachment to it, right? Um, and there's another company, Yarbo, that they've been out there for a couple of years at CES and stuff, and they make little autonomous, kind of a little autonomous tractor, if you will, in the sense that you can put different attachments to it. So it could be a lawnmower, or it can be a snowblower, vacuum to vacuum up leaves and stuff. So it's not that, and it's got its little docking station and stuff. And interestingly, they are using Wi-Fi Halo in their product, but apparently they're using it as a kind of a backup for GPS, because these are for big houses and stuff that have the big yards, and apparently the if you can't get GPS signal from the satellite, occasionally that'll happen. They can triangulate somehow using the router, and the Wi-Fi Halo gives them that distance, that maybe they couldn't get with Wi-Fi.
Huh, that's cool. That's
Yeah, so
cool.
and it was this GPS repositioning thing.
Right, 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 right.
And one of the
I
things,
would buy that right now.
yeah, one of the things I think there could be an opportunity there. It seems to me, if they're sending out these little USB hubs that they are transmitters that basically can plug into a router and make that router Wi-Fi halo can, that basically transmit via Wi-Fi halo.
Right,
It seems
right,
like
right,
there
right.
might be like a TR-181 data element
Probably.
to this.
There's a whole set of interfaces that we should probably put in TR-181 that
Yeah.
are
So
things
anyway,
like that. Yeah.
I mentioned that to these guys because I thought, hey, this is kind of interesting. It seems like there's some overlap, especially if service providers are, providing
Yeah.
this kind of capability.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool that they are doing it in such a way that it's not, it's just something that the consumer can add rather than having to roll out a whole bunch of new gateways everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
like in this case, the Arbo people probably just supply this thing and then they just plug it into the
right.
existing internet. But
Cool.
yeah. But yeah, that's what gets me excited though, is when you see things like this and the possibilities of, to your point, you could take that hairy thing and then just put a different module on it, and now it's sweeping your streets too, or
Right. It's like
sidewalks.
that one small advancement that is literally powering all
Yeah,
sorts of, all sorts of other stuff, right?
yeah, exactly. Doing security and stuff like that.
Right, 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 right.
Um,
Yeah, and so I imagine it's everybody and their mother has some sort of AI based thing there.
yeah, you will. Yeah, and there's some of the stuff that I found interesting. I saw a couple vendors had fire detection, which unfortunately, the fires going on in California right now. It's a um, that's needed more than ever to be able to detect fires early.
Hmm.
And so there were some interesting things there where they're integrating those into cameras and stuff, those sensors.
Oh, cool. So like they literally like see a fire and
Yeah,
like
yeah, apparently. Yeah.
right. Oh,
Uh,
that's super important. And then I always like wonder about um and again, it actually this is kind of to your point in the beginning where it's not so necessarily consumer focused anymore because a lot of those solutions, while yes, it might be it might be something that would be direct to consumer. I bet a lot of that stuff is like you'd be marketing it to the municipalities,
oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, truly smart cities. There was some, I've got some flyers here from some Korean companies that were doing just air monitoring, water monitoring, that sort of thing. Um, yeah. And yeah, all kinds of, oh, yeah, this was the nuclear reactor. There it is.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Sodium fast reactor technology.
So how big is that thing?
Um, it I probably will get the number wrong, but I think the actual physical building wasn't that big. I mean, it's modular, so the idea is they'll build it in factories and stuff. So I mean, I think
Right.
it's like a small building type size. But then they needed more space for kind of the cooling area of it. Um,
Right.
yeah, and I think they might also be using some of the heat generated, and then doing heat exchange and stuff like that, and using the power that way too.
So
Um,
that would be it'd be something that like a municipality could like or a small a small company that wants to become a utility provider could drop into the middle of a
yeah, I mean, I think they were talking more.
poorly worded. Maybe that's the
Yeah,
wrong wording for a nuclear device, but
yeah,
drop in the
right,
middle of a
right. Yeah, you don't want to do that, but yeah, that's the idea. I think it's kind of the maybe not a microgrid, but a bigger grid. I mean, and literally, it could serve a community or an industrial process data center. This one was pretty cool. I interviewed the CEO of this company, OnMed. They're basically making clinics, if you will, telehealth clinics
Oh,
for
cool.
I think they called them healthcare deserts, and so not just rural areas, which unfortunately there's plenty there, but urban areas as well, just places where they don't have medical facilities. This allows you to uh, remote in with the doc, and they say that they can get all the the vitals they need using electronics and stuff.
Neat, neat.
And that again, that was another Starlink, right? He was saying Starlink, and I said, "Well, but you can hook in, like if you have fiber or something." He said, "Yes, but we're finding a lot of it's going into places that don't have internet."
Are any of those direct consumer service providers there at CES? You said Vodafone, but obviously Vodafone's a big, they're big and
Yeah.
they're more of a traditional operator. Um,
Um, in
but
the past,
like Starlink or any of the people are trying to go sort of around the business.
yeah, I think Blue Origin was there. I heard they were there. With their Kuiper, I guess is what it's called. Which is the competition to Starlink. I didn't see Starlink. It's two companies I've never seen at the show. Apple, they've never really had a presence, and Tesla. And I always
Really?
find that ironic. Yeah,
No, that makes sense. That sounds
yeah,
like the most Apple thing I've ever heard.
yeah. Well, it
Right.
does.
They were like, we're gonna do our own trade show.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
And
yeah.
what was the other one you said that you never see
Well,
there?
Tesla.
Tesla, yeah.
Yeah, other than you take a Tesla if you want to go from one part of the convention to the other part. They have you probably are aware of the boring tunnel they created through its
Yeah.
boring company. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you go through that tunnel that they created, and they've got Teslas and drivers and take you to the
Oh,
yeah. So that is always kind of fun. This one,
because it's a bit of a hike. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's a mile. This is the flying ship. This is a commercial thing that's being used for both military and commercial applications, or will be commercial. So it basically goes on rivers, on coasts, and so forth. And they're talking about uh, different versions of this. It basically uses the air cushion effect or whatever you call it. So it's not really it's flying, but it's not flying like a traditional
Right, right,
airplane.
right.
So yeah, use the Coast Guard regulations, not FAA regulations. But they're talking about 50 pounds to 6,000 pounds, depending on the application, which unit they use. But it's from I think it's from an established defense company, so it's
Right,
not
right.
like it's
And
a
so that's something where it's not your traditional drone tech. It's literally just a
yeah,
flying thing that
but
flies. What
it's
did you say earlier? Literally
fl-
under the radar.
yeah, literally under the radar. And but it's to your point of that some of it, especially in the electric versions, wouldn't have been possible before. And then, all these guys are pragmatic. They have hybrid versions too. Um,
Neat.
yeah. And then, of
Well,
course,
that's
there was
super
a lot of,
exciting.
yeah, I was just going to say there's a lot of brainwave type technology.
Oh, I was going to ask about that when you were mentioning the blindness thing.
Yeah.
Is there a
Yeah.
lot of the brain interface stuff there?
Yeah, I mean, this company, MyWaves, I interviewed them. They have a product that basically, in their case, they're just focused on sleep. They kind of do a test using a very accurate EEG type of approach where they look at the electrical signals. And then from that, they create a signature that apparently of the delta waves. If I have any delta waves, people question my brain power, my delta waves would be different from your delta waves. And so we each have a signature, and what they can do then is create a sound based on your signature, and apparently it will get you to sleep much faster and much deeper, and all the REM and everything like that. Who knows? I mean, there's the CTO though I spoke to, he was very enthusiastic about it, and he had a lot of energy from being on a red eye, so I kind of believe him. One that I saw that was really interesting, and I had a conversation with a guy last night who's kind of involved in this, and he thinks that the stuff that Musk is doing with Neuralink with the invasive, he thinks it really doesn't need to be invasive to move limbs and to really change lives. And one of the
I
guys
heard
that,
that, yeah.
yeah, one of the guys I interviewed, he's got an earpiece that basically kind of plugs in, and it uses the facial muscles to control things. And he's
Oh,
claiming you could type at 65 words per minute. So another
wow.
game changer. Again, they're focused on people who can't use their limbs or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
So
great.
yeah, and there's so many people taking different approaches to these kinds of problems. Their challenges.
Right, right, right.
So,
That's cool.
yeah.
It makes me have serious FOMO because I
Yeah.
still haven't got to go to CS.
Well, let's figure out
So
how to get you
hopefully
out there.
next year
Yeah.
when we finally, when we finally have the big conversation about consumer tech and the home hub
Yeah.
colliding
Well, it could be
and I can go
interesting.
talk about that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I would
We'll
like
have
to
to
do.
get you out here and yeah, it's fun.
No, it'd be super fun, and we can do this again.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah, right? Cool. All right, thanks, Ken. I appreciate it.
Jason, thank
It's
you.
like I said, I wanted to live vicariously through you. So
Well, thank you. I feel very proud to have that honor.
cool. All right. Yeah. If people haven't checked out Ken's channel, it's the Viodi Viodi
Yeah, it's Viodi
view.
with eyes.
Yeah. Uh, on YouTube. I'll link to it on here when we're done. But he's been doing this for a while and has a lot of really great stuff and has seen a lot of evolution over the years. And yeah, and as far as we go, it is a new year. And if you're thinking of subscribing to this channel, please do because it makes it all worth it for me and lets me see that you're enjoying what I'm doing here. Um, and go ahead and give um, this video a like. And if you happen to have been at CES and want to talk about some more things that you've seen there, feel free to comment in the video below. And otherwise, Ken, I will see you in a couple months at
Yeah.
least.
Oh, yeah. Well, about
In
6 weeks, I think. Or I guess you're right. It's almost 2 months. Yep.
8 weeks. Yeah,
In
in
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
And above all, own the nerdy things you love and have fun doing them. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Jason.